Hello and welcome to another episode, this time with Kazim Tolga Gürel. My name is Josef Mühlbauer. I'm a scientific researcher at Empowerment for Peace, a small NGO based in Graz, Austria, which is dedicated to critical peace studies. Earlier this year, I had the privilege to publish together with Max Lakic this wonderful pink book on critical peace studies. In German, kritische Friedensforschung, which includes, the perspective of feminism, anarchism, Marxism, and many critical perspectives, the colonial theories, and many others. And in today's episode, I have the honor to talk to Kazim. Dr. Kazim Tolga Gürel wrote many published books and is an author who wrote over 20 articles. His book was published in Turkey and the United States. And because of his opposition to Recep Tayyip Erdogan's government, he cannot work at the university. And he makes a living, therefore, as a construction worker, street musician, and math tutor. So in this sense, maybe we can call you, Kazim, an intellectual precariat or intellectual proletariat in Turkey. His field of studies and interests are gender, democracy, communication, anthropology, and also cultural studies. He also has a YouTube channel, which I very much recommend, called Metropolitan Dervish, where he covers various topics in the light of social sciences. He had a good coverage on Gustav Landauer and many other important figures, also about cultural studies, Eric Hobsbawm, theories, the historian, and many, many others. So I recommend it. Just go for it and like it, and subscribe. Thank you, dear Kazim, that you accepted my invitation, that you followed my invitation for this talk.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Thank you very much. You give me this opportunity to call all the world by your channel.
Let's begin with a more personal question. As in the introduction, I mentioned it already. Let's start from the beginning. What did you study? Let's begin absolutely from the beginning.
Okay, actually, my university, my license, my bachelor department was radio, television, cinema. And after that, I had my first master degree in newspaper. And my second master degree is another subject in journalism again. And my PhD, first PhD was in Konya in Turkey, and was first thesis about economical changing in Turkey and magazines, changing magazines. But because of my politic ideas and my ideas, yes, we can say this. They didn't like me. They didn't like my studies, my behaviors, my free existence. And not all universities in Turkey like this, but especially some universities is really, really right conservative universities. Not all of them. Some Istanbul, Ankara, Izmir, and other places, and of course Kurdish cities we have really free universities, but generally our rectorates in Turkey, universities unfortunately don't choose their rectorate. There is no democracy in universities in these conditions, especially AKP government and MHP government, Islamic and fascist government, unfortunately, nationalism, they always pumps this, and they didn't want to university make free choice their rectorate and other issues. Because of that, not only me, lots of people have problems about university regulation. My last PhD was really, really free place in Anatolia University, and this university's journalism department, and my teacher was really perfect scientific people, and even I have opposite ideas, and I made a PhD thesis about gender, especially LGBTI plus. This is not easy subject for Turkey, you guess. But my teachers are really liberal, democratic persons, and some of them socialists and like this. Maybe we can say socialist, but liberate. We can say liberate. They were liberate. Because of that, I took my PhD. After my PhD, unfortunately, I can't work in universities because of rectorates always put by Erdogan, and their opinion are generally same, and they don't like LGBTI plus subjects. And my writings are generally about radical democracy, radical democratic ideas. My writings have these opinions generally, and because of that, unfortunately, I was out. But that's okay. You said I was a construction builders worker and street player, and lots of job I did. This is, I think, a laboratoire, like social science laboratoire, and I really met lots of people, migrations, sex workers, um, outside the source of society. People lives outside of society. I met with them, and this was really social science laboratory for me. And I actually, I always wrote. I had wrote since I was 9 years old, 10 years old, and I'm still going on. University didn't give me this. This is my specialty, you understand? Nobody gives you this, because if your conscious wonder, if your conscious really worry about society issues, and if you have a heart, if you have a heart, you should write, because write is like your gun. Maybe we can say like this: writing is your gun against fascism, against racism, against homophobia, against all cruelties. I think I can tell this like this.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting. I did my homework, and overall in Turkey, about 62% of academics are men, and only 38% are women. So it was a study conducted in 2022, so it's recently. So there are tremendous inequality in Turkish academia, but not only in Turkey. In Austria we have the same. But how is the academic field in Turkey? So can you express your, academic work? Is it, if it's, for example, against, NATO, against, I don't know, nationalism? Because, for example, I saw and I wrote, no, I read interesting paper by a German researcher, Janis Grimm, who described it for the German academia. And also I see it in Austria. For example, the spaces are shrinking, for critical debate, because we are in an era of war. The Western world is, so to speak, in a war with Russia and China. So we have this competition, this geopolitical competition. And here in Austria and Germany, especially in Germany, it's not easy, to criticize NATO, to be for peace is in time of war a little bit difficult. Also, we have the topic of Ukraine war or Gaza war. You cannot be as critical as, as free academic as you like to be. So having said all that, how is the scene in Turkey,
Actually, we can say this: before coup, before CUBE, 2016, 2015 or 2016. Please
Was
look
it the
at this.
Gezi protests?
Gezi, no, okay. It started with Gezi resistance. Gezi resistance was really important for Turkey because in the first time, government shocked about this. And of course, after Gezi resistance, they pumped other hegemony. But CUBE, I'm talking about CUBE, Fethullah Gülen happenings. And after this coup, especially Turkey politics very changed. And they really pressured all society, not only university, all society. In the universities, for example, okay, there are some opposite academicians in university, but they are minority and they generally silence. They are silence. They are generally silence. If you write against hegemony, okay, maybe they didn't kick out of you from university, but they can do. They can too. But definitely your articles didn't accept journals, academic journals, and you will be other. You will be other. Definitely you will be other. We can say this. Because I have lots of friends in universities and they are generally silenced. For example, if you have leftist unions, if you are in leftist unions, like Eğitim Sen, we say Eğitim Sen, this is very problem, this is very big problem. Okay, they are not definitely kick out of you, but they are pressure. This is sterile strategies, I think, and possibility. Some European countries is the same. World is the same. This is neoliberal politics. It's about neoliberal politics because all capitalists have very big area in front of them, very big area. There are unfortunately very little protesto or something like this. Okay, of course, in the world there are lots of protesto, but it's not enough. Maybe all the world we should make peacefully protesto all the world. But unfortunately, we are atomized. You understand? Minor groups, all the world. But we can't communicate and we can't united possibility. Because of that, of course, Turkey is another part of the old world, and this is not about only Turkey. This is about the world, I think. I hope I can answer because sorry, I don't have lots of foreign friends and language barrier is sometimes pressing me. Sorry about this. I hope you can understand.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate it. And your English is good. I found a nice paper from the Middle East Research and Information Project, which covers critically the Middle East since 1971. And there I found an article. We can put the link in the YouTube info box. Turkey's Purge of Critical Academia. And this is what you're referring for. Academic freedom has always been limited under threat by the state in Turkey, but since the beginning of 2016, academic freedom in Turkey and the broader field of higher education has been subject to a sustained campaign of state repression that is unprecedented in the history of the Turkish Republic. The crackdown on academia undertaken by Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his ruling Justice and Development Party, AKP, began in early 2016 with the repression of a group of anti-war university professors and scholars who became known as the Academics for Peace. It was followed by an all-out government purge of higher education, including mass expulsion, more than 6,000 academics, and the prosecution of hundreds more, university closures even, and institutional restructuring during the emergency rule that followed the failed coup d'etat in July 2016. It was an attempt against President Erdogan. So and the authorities, it's written there, also routinely interferes in student protests on campuses and monitoring the academic research on sensitive topics. So they have an eyes, they always have an eyes on
Of course, for example, believe me, this is not about my ego or something. Believe me, you can't speak like this any academician in from Turkey, in Turkey. You can't. I'm out of academy. Because of that, I can tell this to you. They never speak because, of course, they are afraid. This is not their fault. This is not their fault. They are afraid. They have family, and our economical condition is very bad, especially last 5, 6 years. And because of that, hegemony pressure is increasing. Because of that, they can't speak. They're not fault, but I will speak. I can speak. I'm not afraid of them. Believe me, I'm not afraid of them.
Yeah, you have to be courageous if you want to follow your, your freedom and freedom of expression. You have to be courageous. Many academics, we cannot judge them for being maybe opportunistic, maybe afraid, maybe they want to
I
keep their
understand
job.
them.
We understand them. It's not that we judge them, but it's up for them. It's everybody's choice. And yeah, they are not to blame. So we talked about the coup d'etat and the what followed after then. But let's talk about the Kurdish question, because my interest in the Kurdish movement is, for example, the following question, and maybe you can answer it. How freely can you publish a book, or how freely can you do a research on the Kurdish liberation movement?
This is very hard subject for speaking within this border, within this border. But we can say maybe this. Um, if you are writing parallel of hegemony, this is not problem. But if you are not writing in this subject, unfortunately, your life can be worse. Not about only pressure of police or something. It's about economical decreasing. You understand? It's another, I think, another part of capitalist states, another part of states. In 1970s, Marlon Brando lived the same thing. For example, Marlon Brando was really activist artist, activist actor, and because of Native Americans, because of his saying about Native Americans, his saying about Black people, uh, he was against American policy and American hegemony. Because of that, he didn't find job very long time. Uh, Turkey is the same about this. But if you are talking about especially Kurdish policy, it can be unfortunately worse than this. Worse than this. Maybe I can answer like this.
Let's move on and let's go to my second question. It refers to your research and to your book. It was published in Turkish language, I believe. And also it's about, your analysis of the link between the media as an ideological institution that produces and reproduces binary thinking of gender, hierarchies that are, that are reproduced, and so on and so forth. So explain, please, to our audience, what is the role of the media in the broader sense? Also, what is the role of maybe culture? And what has it to do with ideology and gender biases, construction of gender, social norms? Why is it important? And yeah, what was your analysis?
First of all, again, thank you very much. Joseph, for giving me this opportunity and for your invitation. Today, I'm going to tell you the essence of my book that I wrote in Turkey and which is likely to be published abroad by Vernon Press in the near future. I don't know, but possibility. The media is one of the ideological institutions that reproduce the ideas and ideologies necessary for the continuity of the social organization based on gender difference that exists today. In this study, I have mentioned the benefits of the binary gender structure for the ruling classes that feed on the economic organization of society. From the 19th century onwards, the working man stored the energy necessary for him to work again and participate in production within the comfort of the family. The family which rehabilitated the working man was therefore protected by law and constitutionally guaranteed in nation states. Although women's labor and enterprise were used as cheap labor in various sectors, woman's place was for a long time in the home where the sacred family lived. Professions were gendered. Certain professions were assigned to women and certain professions to men. However, the establishment of the post-Fordist economy, especially in the 1970s, increased consumption enormously. Neoliberal policies, especially in 1980, affected gender roles all over the world. The unskilled worker in the Fordist era was male, and the new mode of production, post-Fordism, began to de-emphasize the male worker, the gender. Of course, capitalism is still male, but the new mode of production requires a more unisex and skilled worker. This change leads to significant crisis, especially in countries close to change, such as Turkey, which maintains old patterns and statistics. In Turkey, state institutions and capital groups are not open to change. The 100 years old religious and national values of the masses freeze the patterns and meanings of society. It makes society closed to change. This is because the hegemony pumped by the states, ideological apparatus, in particular stereotypes, this values and produces consciousnesses that are close to innovation. If we call old values that ideological apparatuses impose the values of the dead on the present. Marx said the dead catches the living. This is precisely what I realized while working on this book. The dead catches the living. And this is perhaps most evident in the operation of heteronormative patterns. In countries that defend monism and uniformization as state hegemony, the heteronormative gender order occupies a significant place in social hegemony. The heteronormative gender order supports the static structure of the state and increases the hegemonic power of the bourgeoisie. Civil society is based on the heteronormative gender system. Uniqueness is essential, not multiplicity and diversity. The values of the majority and the masses must live on, not universal values based on respect for diversity. Respect for diversity. Audiences prefer to follow publications that reinforce their thoughts and attitudes or don't challenge their values. Alternative ideas are discomforting. They disturb comfort and ease. They consume energy. That is why the masses follow communication channels that feed their ideas. In this book, I analyzed the news published in 5 of the most widely read newspapers, the mainstream newspapers, over 16 years. I found 1,036 news stories about trans people, about LGBTI people. My findings showed that the ways trans people were represented and the language and expressions used in the construction of the news stories supported the stereotypes that persist in society. I encountered a media that feeds anti-democratic approach and discriminatory, transphobic and hate speech against trans people. Trans people are very often the subject of courthouse police news. In Agamben's words, Georgia Agamben words, each one of them is a homosacer. Moreover, the opinions of trans people are not included in these news reports. The most frequent news items featuring trans people are police courthouse news, where their opinions are not included. In these news items, the views of men are primarily included as sexual identities. These people are mainly civil servants, such as police officers or commissioners, statements generally. The news is constructed with their speech. As such, these people are more likely to be identified with crime in the public consciousness. In the newspapers I analyzed, the news about trans people, transgender people, is based on the positive majority, normality, and negative other mentioned by Van Dyck in his theories. In the distinction between positive us and negative other, the positive us is the Holy Family and the docile citizen, while the negative other is the demonized transgender people. When we look at the content of 1036 news articles, it is seen that the incident that concerns a person or a group is described in a language that covers all trans people. Butler and Spivak point out that the state doesn't permanently restrict individuals. Sometimes it may not deprive them of their freedoms, but it categorizes them in almost every aspect. The news reports I analyzed showed that transgender people engage in virtually no vital activity. They are identified only with violence, murder, drugs, fraud, and sometimes mafia. They are portrayed negatively in almost every news report. They cannot be heard except for one point. This is where the necessity and power of the street and protest remerge. Only news about street protest increases the visibility of transgender people. Trans people can speak at street protests. At least their speaking rate increases. It is not the governor or the commissioner or another statesman, so on, who speaks for them. The discourses of transgender people directly appear in the news. The only chance for trans people and transgender associations to make their names heard is to take the streets en masse. This applies to all subalterns. In his writings on colonialism, Albert Memmi calls the categorization of freedoms, where to speak, where to live, what to do, so on, etc. Dehumanization. Dehumanization. As Agamben says, the state creates a state of exception and dehumanizes some and humanizes some. It dehumanizes. Those who don't fit the ideology are dehumanized. Democracy, real democracy, radical democracy, is a state in which no one is dehumanized. Even though this is an idea, it should be put into practice as much as possible. Among the 830 news items containing negative judgments, among the 1036 news items I analyzed, I came across news headlines that differentiate LGBTI+, especially in terms of the adjectives used for them, that produce hate speech beyond having distinctive strategies such as turning inside out or labeling by gender. I saw that the news headlines that directly produce fear and hatred were used with adjectives such as murder. The news items using these expressions were titled in a way to cover all homosexuals. It exemplified that they pushed out of the norm with the strategy of dehumanization, as Memmi puts it. Transgender, whose representation rate in economic news was zero percentage, were pushed out of all life. In capitalism, unfortunately, you can't live unless you have money. In Turkey, transgender people cannot take shelter in any legal economic cycle. This is also reflected in the news. They are not even the fashion news. Gays are in the fashion news to some extent, but trans people are not. This shows how much they are pushed out of economy, out of life. Yes, I think my speech is finished now.
So, so you are working with a lot of famous social scientists and philosophers like Spivak, Marx.
Generally, I try their usage, their theories, their instruments to adopt my culture, and I want to maybe in future I can theorize something. I have theorized something, but unfortunately they didn't here, nobody here. But you know, if you there is unfortunately a cultural imperialism about this. If you are, especially up to 1970s, maybe it is broken now because some Indian theorists, some Egyptian theorists, some theorists are speaking all the world. But this is another cultural imperialism, I think. And if you are from, maybe we can say, if you are from East, unfortunately, your speech is not strong as much as uh, capital accumulation countries. You understand?
Absolutely, and the topic is very important. So you are analyzing the underrepresentation of, you know, a minority, so to speak. And on the other hand, you are, you know, explaining the link also, and that was very interesting, Fordism, post-Fordism, how the social structure changed also, and how the media changed as well, and the you know, our
Everything
narratives and
changed.
thinking about it.
Everything
I find it
changed.
very
I'm
interesting.
not I'm not typical Marxist, but I think Marx is definitely right uh, about some words, especially in capitalism lives, capitalism continues. Because of that, we should return in some subjects, definitely Karl Marx, I think. And maybe I can say, I can add this to you, Joseph, uh, especially when I was working in construction, I I investigate workers have a language, especially in Turkey, maybe not in Europe. They are generally they are Kurdish people, because Kurdish people especially uses in very bad economic works. You know, this is like xenophobia creates. Unfortunately, xenophobia is produced by because of this. Of course, xenophobia is wrong, of course wrong. But migrated people, other people, all other people, generally using in bad economic conditions. This is a strategy of capitalism in every culture, maybe. And when I was working construction, I saw they have a language, they have a communication style. And I wrote my book, The History of Domestication of Speech in USA. I wrote there, there is a communication skill here because they need to decrease their consumption of energy. But when I was petit bourgeois, when I was high school, I never understand them. But because of my life of like this, we say zigzag. Because of that, I understand what they are speaking, their language. I started to understand their language. Maybe, and I told this, we are living in a class. We are living in habitus, like Bourdieu said. We are living a capital borders, like aquarium, like a fish. If our brick, our aquarium, if we have experienced more, our conscious definitely wider and wider. Maybe we are getting other marginalized people, marginalized migrations, marginalized others, marginalized trans, because we don't know them. Because we don't know them. Maybe I can say this.
Yeah, it's important to say, yes. So let's move on to my last question. As I mentioned in the introduction, you also have a YouTube channel called Metropolitan Dervish. So let's talk about this channel. What is the aim of the channel? What type of videos do you produce, and for what audience? And yeah, let's talk about, you know, let's promote a little bit the channel. I find it very, you know, interesting, and you have a lot of good videos there. So
You know, I was 5 years street musician, and I lived outside, sometimes streets. And I not only Turkey, I went to Greece, Bulgaria, and other countries with my çadır, we say tent with my tent, and I traveled. I saw lots of people. I knew lots. I met lots of people. And when I was in Yalova in Turkey, I went to, like we say, medrese. Medrese is like Sufi, you know, Sufi, like Rumi medrese. And I stayed with them for weeks. And there was a dervish. Unfortunately, he died. He said to me, "You don't need us. You are metropolitan dervish. You are like modern dervish. Your conscience and your heart." He said like this. Thank to him. He died. We say Allah rahmet eylesin. And after that, my friend said to me, "Why don't you broadcast in YouTube? Why don't you have a channel in YouTube?" I always said, "I can't do this. I can't." And but after that, one day, I said, "Okay, I should." Because I always read, every day I read, and I took some information from books, and I'm saying this, yes, this should tell the people. Why? Because we are only small thing, but definitely we are important. Like all cell, all cell in the body, all cell in the body. We should tell the people our ideas if we are anti-racist, anti-homophobic, anti-capitalist, and like this, because other types of hegemony always comes like Gramsci theory. You understand, like Gramsci theory, we should uh, point and we should protect our ideas. Or Elizabeth Noel Norman says this too. Not important. Important is this. I have some interpretation about society, about my books, about ideas, and I am saying, okay, I should tell. Because of that, unfortunately, my Metropolitan Dervish channel has lots of subjects. Lots of subjects. Why? Because I have approximately 4,000 books, and I have been reading since I was 9, 10 years old. Because of that, I wanted to tell lots of things, and because of that, I started. Its story is like this. I hope I can tell you.
I have to, tell you that I'm a big fan of the Sufi, and I also meditate with Sufi music. I enjoy it, and I like also the philosophical approach that you don't need an institution like a church or mosque or whatever um, to be inspired by the energy and to also feel the you know you don't need a religious scholarship, so to speak. And also what I
Yes.
like is they
Sorry. Your heart is your religious scholar.
yes, yes, yes,
Your
yes,
heart,
yes.
our heart, human heart is like this. Not important Islam or Christianity or others. Not important is this. Your heart is important. Your heart is speak with you. I'm not saying God or something, because this is all. It's not about all. This is actually inside. Everything inside and maybe out too. Sorry, please go on. Please go
No,
on.
I just wanted to mention that, yeah, I like them, and yeah, it's an quite interesting movement, yes. So yeah, and your YouTube channel, you had about Gustav Landauer, some documentary, and yeah, they're very good. And with this,
Thank you very
yeah,
much.
maybe we can wrap up. I hope you have a lot of success, and I hope you have the energy and the spirit to continue producing videos and give your knowledge, to other people. And you know, as you see by this, we are getting more connected, and then people like me from Austria can listen to your, you know, ideas, and it's a good way of expressing yourself. And please keep going. And
Thank you very much, Joseph. Thank you very much.